Kia ora, and welcome technology teachers to this screencast about technological products. The scope of this screencast is to unpack the key messages of the national markers on Achievement Standard 91359, demonstrate understanding of the role of material evaluation in product development. Achievement Standard 91359 or 2.6 is a Level 2 achievement standard. This screencast is part of the Secondary Student Achievement Professional Learning and Development Initiative and is funded by the Ministry of Education. This screencast is one of a series related to the externally assessed technology standards, which can be found on the Technology Wiki sites. This screencast is also available to download as a PDF with additional notes. My name is Pippa Lawler, and I am one of a team of technology facilitators working together with teachers throughout the country to raise student achievement. You, like me, will be keen to discover the key messages, but first we need to position this standard in relation to some strategic documents which inform teaching and learning. In preparation for teaching and learning, there are a few key documents that teachers need to be familiar with. In this section, I shall highlight some of the most important references and areas where teachers can find in-depth support and detailed information that will inform teaching and learning. Achievement Standard 91359 is at Curriculum Level 7 of the New Zealand curriculum. The technological knowledge objective includes within technological products the idea that students will understand the concepts and principles employed in material evaluation. In relation to the New Zealand curriculum for technology, technological products is one of the components in the technological knowledge strand. This component is about the identification, description, use and development of materials. It's also about the impact that the selection of materials has on the fitness for purpose of technological outcomes. Teachers can support students to understand that the selection of appropriate material evaluation procedures relies on understanding the composition and structure of materials and how the properties of materials can be enhanced through manipulation or transformation. At Curriculum Level 7, guidance about technological products is available in the Technology Teaching and Learning Guide. The appropriate section can be found under the Technological Knowledge strand and Section 7-2. In the Teaching and Learning Guide, you will find helpful advice, including possible starting points for introducing the topic to students. The learning objective is for students to match the performance standard of materials to the performance specifications of a product, either one they are developing themselves or a product that already exists. Students must make clear their knowledge about the materials used. The NZQA website also provides resources for teachers, and these can be found on a subject-by-subject basis. It's a good idea to bookmark your subject pages for easy reference. Technology includes diverse materials areas. On this particular subject page, information is grouped into 3 areas: generic technology, construction and mechanical technologies, and processing. All resources related to generic technology are grouped together. This includes levels 1 through to 3 and both internally and externally assessed standards. And thus resources relating to Achievement Standard 91359 are located here. When students have a clear understanding of the task and they are confident in the use of technical language and terminology, they will be most successful in producing a clear and concise report. In this section, I highlight some of the pre-learning that needs to take place. Technological products are tangible objects that have been designed by people and developed through technological practice to serve particular functions. In every technological product, there is a crucial relationship between the chemical composition and structure of the materials used and their performance properties. For this reason, technologists need to be able to evaluate different materials and select the most suitable for their purpose. They also need to understand how existing materials can be modified or new materials formulated, and how choice of materials impacts on the design, development, maintenance and disposal of technological products. Students may need support to understand the specialist language, key vocabulary and terminology. Different products require different knowledge bases, depending on the kinds of materials to be used. For example, the knowledge base required for understanding and developing food products would be very different to furniture or garments. The step up from level 6 to level 7 is that students need to understand how existing materials can be modified, as well as how the choice of material impacts on design or development. Students can discuss a range of both subjective and objective evaluation procedures used to determine the suitability of materials. This should describe the underpinning concepts and processes involved in particular procedures. It is important that students focus on the type of testing carried out rather than the equipment used. Subjective testing techniques would include such things as opinion or preference based on trends or fashion. Objective techniques are those which include measurable quantities, such as tensile strength, elasticity, absorbency, or nutritional value. The results of the testing can be reported in different ways. The use of tables, charts, or other graphic representations allows students to collate results, summarize them, and then comment in succinct and meaningful ways. Technologists often use specialized language and symbols to communicate specific information about materials. Students will need to be familiar with material-specific vocabulary and terminology which is relevant to the technological products they are evaluating. The key terms and explanations are more deeply explored in the Level 1 screencast relating to technological products, and dealing especially with Achievement Standard 91049. This can be accessed through the technology wikis. At curriculum level 6, students develop their understanding of material development, considering the characteristics and structure of materials. Reporting was mainly at an explain or describe level. The step up at curriculum level 7 is that students are expected to discuss, rather than simply describe, the role of both testing and evaluation materials and how they relate to product performance specifications. There is the expectation that students will carry out their own materials testing and evaluation. In addition, both objective and subjective evaluation techniques must be used to make decisions about the suitability of material choices during development, maintenance, and disposal. In this section, I will highlight the requirements of the standard by exploring a selection of student work from previous years. I will focus on comments from the national markers which indicate what students did that enabled them to achieve success. Step-by-step analysis helps to break down exactly how students met the achievement criteria at all levels, including merit and excellence. Unless otherwise noted, all the extracts, including images, are taken from NZQA student exemplars. These are available to download from the NZQA website and span the period from 2012 to 2015. This screencast just provides a brief snapshot, and teachers would want to access the full reports and exemplars in order to give their own students formative feedback. The specification is reviewed each year and regularly changes. Therefore, it is important to reference the most current specification and the assessment report. These are available on the NZQA website. The assessment report comments on good practice. This begins with the basic layout and structure of a report. Most schools find that A4 is a convenient size on which to send their submissions. There is a page limit, and students must ensure that they work within the limit. As only the first 10 pages of evidence can be marked, larger submissions will provide no additional advantage. Students would do well to focus on quality, not quantity. A quality report would include evidence of student voice, genuine evidence of testing which has been applied to the material choices for the outcome, and a successful link between a case study and student practice. Successful candidates typically produced reports which had clearly headed sections. These could include, for example, knowledge, techniques underpinning a procedure, material evaluation procedures undertaken, and relationship between performance properties and performance specifications. Candidates who used these types of headings and then reported to the requirements of the standard with accuracy and directness are the candidates who enjoyed success at all levels of the standard. Successful candidates also remembered to cite references correctly. When working towards achievement success, a common factor was that successful students had a clear product specification as a starting point. The step up at level 7 is that students are able to move from generalizations about material properties into the specific areas of research required for their individual product outcomes. Using their product specification, students investigated possible materials. A simple mind map by itself is too generalized and needs to be refined so that research is relevant. Performance properties of identified materials need to be explained, and these properties related to the specification required for the product. These snapshots are intended to give an indication of the standard and types of evidence required. The depth and detail of the specific exemplars is available from the NZQA website. At curriculum level 7, students are expected to perform a range of tests. Successful students describe the different materials evaluation procedures they undertook. A table is a concise way of correlating the results and something that the markers have commented that they are pleased to see in a report. Students showed that they had evaluated their results and drew conclusions by explaining the relationship between the performance properties of the materials selected and the performance specifications of a product. When students identify and analyze examples of how materials have been evaluated, this allows them to track the decisions that have been made about the material selection. Successful students not only describe the knowledge and techniques which underpin the material evaluation procedures, they also explained how they use this to support the material selection decisions in the development of their product. The justification of how they would use the information gained is an important aspect at curriculum level 7. Students gained insight into the decision-making processes that maximize the potential for fitness for purpose of particular technological products. Literacy support is important for any externally assessed standard. It is essential to ensure that students understand key vocabulary relating to material evaluation. Students need to know the difference between describe for achieved, explain for merit, and discuss for excellence. Students will often benefit from a teacher's clear guidance as to how to structure an effective report. And some sort of pre-writing guide may help students organise their thoughts. Successful scaffolding strategies can include suggesting section headings, the use of sentence starters, and using checklists. In this section, I will look at what else students need to do in order to gain merit. Students who achieved with merit provided a more in-depth exploration, which explored why they selected particular material evaluation techniques to determine suitability. The highlighted text shows how successful students explained the performance properties of the intended outcome, linking to their specification and the desirable attributes they have determined. They explained how they developed their knowledge of the suitability of materials for their outcome, through testing and trialling, and provided evidence of having conducted relevant tests, as well as reflecting upon the results. Explanations used student voice throughout, linking decision-making, testing, and evaluation in order to draw valid conclusions. This exemplar shows how the student voice relates to the material selected and the product outcome. At merit level, the student is expected to explore their explanation in some detail. Typically, this could be a few paragraphs, although students should always focus on quality rather than quantity. The students reference underpinning knowledge, as well as the techniques they selected and how these supported their decisions. The highlighted text indicates situations in their own practice where the student has been able to show this. Where students achieved with merit, they successfully used information gathered from stakeholders in the decision-making process. The highlighted extract indicates where the student was able to explain how information gathered from stakeholders influenced the choices they subsequently made with regard to materials. In this section, I shall look at what else students who achieved with excellence included in their report. Achievement with excellence involves students both developing and discussing the relationship between their evaluation of materials and the product's design. Discussion would be taken to mean a thorough and in-depth examination of factors, as distinct from a concise explanation. Successful students made the links throughout their report in order to demonstrate their comprehensive understanding. Successful students related a robust and appropriate exploration of a case study to their own practice so that they had the opportunity to express student voice in a genuine way. It is important for students to create a report which discusses their experiences from their practical work and not simply just from a case study. Students must also remember to demonstrate a full understanding of what they have learnt about the material and why they chose to use what they did and how this could be used for future products. At excellence level, a discussion could extend to a couple of paragraphs dealing with each point. Successful students considered alternatives, explaining their reasoning and decision-making, and demonstrating that they had considered many factors, including social, cultural, and environmental considerations. Students are also expected to understand the implication of these concepts and processes for design development, maintenance, and disposal of technological products. This means that students need to discuss examples in order to explain how material evaluation impacted on design and development issues. Other considerations would be to discuss how material evaluation impacted on maintenance and disposal issues, and therefore informed design, development, and post-production care decisions. Successful students at excellence level typically considered multiple solutions and explored the possibilities through their discussions. In this section, I shall signpost further points for consideration and other resources and activities that may offer guidance. The Technology Teaching and Learning Guide supports senior secondary students by providing teachers with a framework to enable students to succeed. Key NZQA documents will provide up-to-date information and the latest commentary, empowering teachers to guide students to success at all levels. As these documents are renewed and revised annually, it is essential to work with the most recent versions. Look for the most up-to-date exemplars on the NZQA website by using this link. It's often useful to backtrack for a few years in order to pick up recurrent problem areas or trends that the markers will then highlight in their reports. The marker comments may be brief, and you might find it easier to gain insight when you take the time to unpack the exemplars as we have done in this screencast. This could even be a deliberate activity that you choose to do with your students, perhaps to help them identify the structure of a report, or identify elements of good practice, or examples of subjective and objective evaluation. When you carefully select good examples to share with your students, you will be modelling for them what success looks like, and emphasise what must, should, and could be included in a report. In this way, students will have clear guidelines to work towards positive achievement success. This brings us to the end of the presentation. If you have any questions regarding points raised in this screencast, I recommend that you contact the appropriate technology facilitator for your region and seek further clarification. Thank you for your participation. Ka kite and goodbye.